What if there was an ETF that over the past 10 years beat all of the total market ETFs like VTI, beat all of the S&P 500 tracking ETFs like VOO, beat the large cap growth ETFs like SCHG, and over the past 3 years and 5 years has even beaten SCHG, the NASDAQ 100 tracking ETF? Well, let me introduce you to SPMO, which I'll be referring to as SPMO throughout this video. And this is the Invesco S&P 500 Momentum ETF. In this video, we're going to compare SPMO to VOO, SCHG, SCHG, and VTI. I'm then going to go over my ranking process, and it's going to show you how this actually compares. You're going to see that there will be a clear winner within this ranking process that I created. I'm then going to show you how to use my free web app that we'll do this whole ranking process by just clicking a few buttons. We'll be comparing ETFs like VFMO, FDMO, JMOM, and MTUM. Then finally, by the end of this video, you're gonna see why SPMO is just so good. So, my sister's neighborhood. It ends with this big steep hill at the end of her road. One day, I decided I want to be the cool uncle, take my nephew out. You know, I'm longboarding with my nephew. I have not longboarded in 10 to 15 years probably. In college, it was my mode of transportation. I used to be very familiar with riding longboards. Now, I think I kind of forgot. So I'm just cruising around the neighborhood and I hit the steep hill part of the neighborhood. And as I'm going down, I realized, oh, you probably shouldn't be longboarding like straight vertically down a hill like this. You hit one bump, you hit one little pothole, you're wiping out probably. I'm gonna be going to sleep with like a cast on my arm. So do the smart thing. I just bail into the grass. My nephew's over there, he's just dying laughing because I'm the cool uncle, or trying to be the cool uncle, who now looks like an idiot. And momentum investing, just like riding a longboard straight downhill, you can go really fast and you can hop in really fast moving stocks and you can actually make good money. However, you can also hit a pothole, or maybe you don't quite lean into the turn. Maybe there's a rock or something in the road. You can eat pavement. You can hurt yourself, you can hurt your portfolio. It can be dangerous. But here's the thing about SPMO, it doesn't just go straight downhill. It actually has some things that maybe act kind of like as tapping some brakes as you're going down the hill. Or maybe if you hit a turn, it's gonna help you lean into the turn. So SPMO actually is not the crazy uncle just riding straight down the hill when you shouldn't be. It's much less dangerous than that. And don't just take my word for it. Momentum investing, when people like Fama and French, who have done studies that basically said the market is efficient, you shouldn't even try to own stocks, just buy the market because you can't beat the market. But when it came to momentum investing, they actually had to add it to their models because it actually is a factor that does do well. But how does SPMO actually do this? We're gonna go over 5 steps that SPMO uses to find the stocks that are in its portfolio. There are more steps than this. There is more details here. I'm making this one simple. I know someone's gonna comment down there that I'm like leaving something out here. This is just a simplistic explanation. It starts with the S&P 500 index. So there's 500 stocks, of course, in the S&P 500 index. It will rank those 500 companies with 2 different factors: the 12-month price change minus the current month, and a volatility adjustment. Now, the volatility adjustment is the brakes. It's the thing that stops this ETF from just going out and buying the crazy uncles that are going straight downhill. This adds up into something called a momentum score, and it takes that momentum score and it multiplies every stock by the market cap of the stock. And then you get SPMO, which is basically around 100 stocks. So that's how it works. How does it compare to some other really popular ETFs? The process I go to rank ETFs, I take different factors, I decide what style of investing it is. We're going with growth today. And I put different weights on the different factors and I come up with a score. So the factors that we're gonna go over, we'll start right now with the expense ratios. And you'll see VOO and VTI have a 0.03% expense ratio. They're the lowest here. SCHG, 0.04%. You got SPMO with 0.13% and then 0.20% for SCHG. Considering what you get out of this ETF, this is a very manageable expense ratio. In terms of yield, which we shouldn't even be talking about because it's a growth ETF, but it shows about a 0.64% yield. VOO, VTI have about 1.14%, so it's closer to SCHG and it's higher than SCHG. I mean, we just throw this out honestly because who cares about yield when you're doing growth investing? What you do care about though is risk. So max drawdown is an important part here. And so for the max drawdown, if we go back to October 15th of 2015, and we look at all the time period from then until now, what is the highest point that all of these ETFs kind of got to and then hit the lowest point, the peak to the trough? Could be any time period, could be 3 months, could be 5 years. but we're looking at that drawdown. Interestingly, we got SPMO starting off here, negative 30.95%. This is the lowest max drawdown out of all of these ETFs. Next, you have VOO at negative 33.99. Then you got SCHG at negative 34.60, negative 35% VTI, and negative 35.12% is QQQ. Continuing with risk here, if we look at the volatility of this ETF, at 15.94, we have VOO, 16.52, VTI, and then SPMO with 18.54. It's the third most volatile. Less volatile than SCHG, which has a 20.8% volatility, and QQQ, which has a 21.15% volatility. I refer to something called the stability score. This usually is only when I'm looking at income producing ETFs. We don't have to worry about it here. Just to note that the income in this isn't very stable anyway. Some of the companies that make it into this portfolio, they pay dividends, some won't. Dividends are going to be all over the place in this portfolio. Don't expect dividends to be consistent in this type of ETF. You don't care, essentially. In terms of diversification, how many holdings are in these ETFs? You have VTI, which is definitely the biggest, 3,530 stocks in the portfolio. You got VOO, 507, SCHG, 197. Then you got SPMO and QQQ with 101. And in terms of size or assets under management, VTI is definitely the biggest ETF, which is $2 trillion. You got VOO with 1.4 trillion, also a giant ETF. Then you got QQQ, 385 billion, SCHG, 51 billion, and then you got tiny little SPMO sitting there with 13 billion. Doesn't seem like a lot in comparison. However, it's plenty of money inside an ETF, so it wouldn't be considered like an illiquid type of ETF. Let's talk returns, the fun part. 23.97% VTI, 24.61% VOO, 32.53% SCHG, 32.06% QQQ, 33.57% SPMO over the past 3 years. Looking pretty good so far. But how about the 5 and 10-year returns? 15.74% VTI, 16.63% VOO, 17.89% QQQ, 18.23% SCHG, 20.72% SPMO, coming in first in the 5-year and in the 3-year. How about the 10-year? We got 14.31% VTI, 14.91% VOO, 18.33% SCHG. What's it gonna be? 18.35% SPMO. Coming in almost first place, so it's second place here in the 10-year. QQQ with a 20.03%. How much would $10,000 have grown to if you invested in any of these ETFs over a 10-year period? $38,095 for VTI, $40,132 VOO, $53,823 for SCHG, $53,915 for SPMO, $62,071 for QQQ. That's it for the things that I look at when it comes to ETFs. I then would rank them based on this ranking system. What you would do is look at this red part on the left side here. Because this is growth, I would weigh this based on a growth investor. So the expense ratio would be like 10% or 0.1 here. Volatility 20%, max drawdown 20%, diversification 5%, size 5%, and performance is 40%. This adds all up and it shows you, according to the way I rank ETFs, SPMO is number 1 out of all these different ETFs. Now, let's see the web app I created. Let's run all those ETFs again just to show you how quickly it works. Everything I just did, a few buttons, boom, it's done. Then we're gonna look over some other momentum ETFs, see how it compares to those. Quick plug, I added something new to this. We now have a light mode. I'm gonna show this one off in this video. So if you wanna turn it into light mode, you just hit this button here. So what we're gonna do is, we're going to say, okay, we're growth investors here. So we're gonna click growth and we're gonna enter the ETFs, SPMO, QQQ, VTI, VOO, SCHG. You can hit this add button or click enter and then hit compare. And there we go, we got SPMO coming in at number 1 in the ranking inside our app. So everything I just showed you, it just kind of does it for you inside this app. SPMO, if we want to say, okay, what's the most volatile of these? I can actually hit this button, it's gonna sort by volatility. The most volatile of these ETFs is QQQ at 21%, then SCHG at 20%, then SPMO. Now, SPMO at 18.5% is more volatile than the general total stock market and the S&P 500. However, it's less volatile than SCHG and QQQ and it still beat them, at least SCHG, over every time period. And QQQ, it beat in at least the 3 and 5 year returns. So lower volatility, higher returns. Isn't that exactly what you want out of an ETF? And for the max drawdown, if we also sort this here, QQQ having the highest max drawdown, then VTI, then SCHG, then VOO, and then SBMO. But, how does it rank against other momentum ETFs? Like, does it even stack up for other momentum ETFs? Do they actually have better ETFs than SBMO? All right, let's use ETF Compare to figure that out. So I'm gonna type in VFMO, FDMO, JMOM, MTUM, SPMO. We're gonna add those, we're gonna compare, and guess what we got? SBMO coming out on top still. So even versus other similar momentum ETFs, I still have this thing ranking as number 1. If we look at a few of the things, for example, like returns, the 10-year return is more than MTUM. Other ETFs here like JMOM, FDMO, VFMO, they're not quite 10 years old, but we can look at the 5-year returns. So SPMO, 20.3% on the 5-year return, higher returns than all these other ones as well. Now, let's take a look at the volatility, of course, because that's important. Volatility-wise, JMOM, FDMO have the lower volatilities here. SPMO is in 3rd place. Then for the max drawdown, you'll have VFMO, the highest maximum drawdown, JMOM, MTUM, FDMO, and then SPMO having the best or the lowest max drawdown. So lower volatility than some of these other ETFs that are very popular, higher returns over the past 10 years than the general stock market, than the S&P 500, than even SCHG. I'll be honest, I own this ETF. I think it's pretty good. If you haven't tried ETF Compare, it's free. Take a look in the description below. There's a link. And if you want to see why no one is investing in VOO anymore, click this video right here.